My name is Mara Linton, 37 years old. It was one of those Kansas afternoons where the cold hangs heavy, like even the sky is tired. I'd just finished balancing a freelance client's books when my phone buzzed with Dad's name. I smiled automatically. He rarely called unless something was wrong with the car or the Wi-Fi. "Hey, Dad," I said, but his voice came out too flat, too rehearsed. "It's not the right time for you and the kids to come this Christmas," he said. The words hit like static. I stared at the snow-frosted window above the kitchen sink, the hum of the refrigerator suddenly too loud. "Not the right time?" I repeated. Mom's voice chimed faintly in the background, muffled but firm. "The house is too crowded this year." Crowded? I blinked. My brother Trent and his wife lived 20 minutes away in Topeka. They always spent Christmas there anyway. "Who's staying over?" I asked, half hoping it was a misunderstanding. Dad hesitated. "Just some friends of Trent's. His coworker brought their dog." I didn't hear the rest. My fingers tightened around the phone, the image forming too clearly. My parents' house glowing with garlands and laughter. A stranger's dog curled on my mom's favorite rug, while my daughter Riley and my son Eli sat at home wondering why Grandma didn't want them. I forced my voice steady. "You're saying there's no room for me or the kids, but there's room for Trent's coworker and their pet?" Silence. Then a soft sigh. "It's complicated, Mara. You know how your mother gets." "I do," I whispered. "Better than anyone." We hung up, and I just stood there, phone still in my hand, watching the kettle steam without remembering to pour the water. Riley's laughter drifted from the living room as she tried to teach Eli how to fold paper snowflakes. The innocence in their voices twisted something in my chest. That evening, I sat on the couch, scrolling through social media, telling myself I wouldn't look. But of course I did. The first post I saw froze my blood. Trent's wife had uploaded an album titled Family Christmas in Topeka. Every picture was a stab. My parents smiling beside Trent, their coworker raising a glass, the dog in a Santa hat. The tree glittered with gold ornaments. The same tree my kids had helped decorate last year. I stared until the edges of my vision blurred. My phone trembled in my hand. All those months of overtime, the jewelry I'd sold, the necklace Grandma left me, every sacrifice funneled into that silver Toyota I'd secretly bought my parents because their old car was dying. I'd imagined unveiling it with a red bow, imagined Dad's grateful smile. Instead, he couldn't even make room for us at his table. Something inside me cracked. I opened the garage door and stood in front of the Toyota, its metallic paint catching the dim light. It should have felt like love. It just felt like proof of how blind I'd been. I took a photo, the car gleaming, the red bow tied neat as a lie, and sent it to the family group chat. No caption, just the image. Minutes later, the typing dots appeared, then disappeared. 30 minutes after that, 22 missed calls. Mom, Dad, Trent, even Aunt Doris. I didn't answer a single one. Instead, I typed 4 words. "Now's not the right time." I hit send. The chat went dead silent. Outside, snow began to fall again. Soft, endless, indifferent. I leaned my head against the cold window pane and wondered when love had started to feel like debt. And deep down, something darker whispered, "This wasn't about Christmas. It never was." 2 days passed before the knock came. It was near midnight, Wichita, blanketed in quiet snow, the kind that muffles even regret. I opened the door, half expecting Trent with his smug grin, but it was Dad. He looked smaller in the porch light, his gray coat dusted with flakes, his eyes darting past me toward the garage. "Is that for us?" he asked, nodding toward the Toyota parked under the eave, its red bow still perfectly tied. I didn't invite him in right away. The air between us was brittle, ready to snap. "It was," I said finally, "before the call." He nodded once, the shame visible even in the way his shoulders sank. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside. The warmth of the house met the bitter air as he entered, stamping snow from his shoes. The kitchen clock ticked too loudly. Upstairs, the soft thump of Eli's toy truck echoed. He was still awake. Riley had fallen asleep on the couch, clutching her stuffed reindeer. I poured Dad a cup of coffee, though neither of us touched it. "You shouldn't have driven in this weather," I said. He shrugged. "Your mother said I should talk to you. She's upset." I laughed under my breath, sharp and small. "She's upset?" He winced. "You sent that picture to the group chat, Mara. It came off as—" "Honest," I cut in. Because that's all it was. A photo of the car I bought you with money I didn't really have. He opened his mouth, but no defense came. Just that familiar, helpless look, the one he used whenever Mom's decisions overruled him. I sold Grandma's sapphire necklace, I continued quietly. Remember the one she gave me before she died? You said it was bad luck to part with heirlooms. He blinked. You sold it? I did. And I worked nights balancing other people's books while my kids slept on the couch beside my desk. All to get you and Mom something safe, something that wouldn't break down on the way to church. And in return, you told me there wasn't room for us. Dad's eyes glistened. Your mother... Stop blaming her, I said, voice rising. You're the one who called. You could have said no to her. You could have said, our daughter and grandkids come first. But you didn't. The silence after that was thick enough to choke on. He stared at his hands, the calluses on his knuckles still visible from years of factory work. I saw guilt there, but not courage. Finally, he murmured, you'll regret walking away from family. Something in me hardened. You mean I'll regret not letting them walk over me again? His face twitched. That's not what I meant. Isn't it? I whispered. You know what hurts most? Not the call, not the photos. It's realizing I spent my life earning love that was never unconditional. You and Mom always said family sticks together, but that was code for me fixing everything you broke. Dad pushed his coffee aside, standing slowly. You sound just like your grandmother. I froze. What's that supposed to mean? She said the same thing once, about giving too much, about being invisible. His voice softened, a tremor slipping through. Maybe that's why she left you that necklace. The room seemed to tilt for a second, like the truth had slipped out by accident. I'd never heard him speak about Grandma that way before. He looked like he regretted saying it the moment the words left his mouth. What do you mean? I asked, but he shook his head. Nothing. Just understood what it's like to love people who only see you when they need something. I wanted to ask more, but his eyes had gone distant. The clock ticked, snow melting into his coat. He glanced once more at the garage, then back at me. Keep the car, Mara. Forget us if you have to. Just don't lose yourself. He left before I could reply. I watched him walk down the driveway, the taillights of his old sedan flickering like a fading apology. When the door closed, I leaned against it, breath unsteady. Upstairs, I heard Riley stir and murmur in her sleep. Mom? I whispered back, It's okay, honey, though nothing about it was. In the garage, the Toyota gleamed under the weak light. I looked at it and saw not a gift, but a mirror. A reflection of all the ways I'd tried to prove I was worth their love. And for the first time, I knew exactly what I had to do next. The next morning, my phone buzzed before sunrise. For a second, I thought it might be Dad. An apology, maybe, but it wasn't. It was a notification from Facebook, my mother's name in bold. The post was public. I didn't even need to click See More to feel my stomach drop. There, beneath a photo of their rusted old sedan sitting in the Topeka driveway, she'd written, Some people care more about themselves than their parents' needs. We raised our children to value family, but sadly, not everyone remembers where they came from. No names, she didn't have to. My coffee went cold in my hand as I read through the comments piling underneath. Aunt Doris, you should be ashamed, Mara. They've done everything for you. Mom's friend Evelyn, so sad when kids turn their backs on the ones who gave them life. A few others added emojis, crying faces, praying hands, hearts. Even strangers joined in, echoing the pity. And then, like salt in the wound, I saw the little gray heart next to Trent's name. He'd liked the post. His wife had shared it, captioned with a single sentence, Money really changes people. My hand trembled around the phone. I set it down before I threw it. My heart pounded in my ears. Riley and Eli were in the living room, building Lego castles on the carpet, laughing. I couldn't let them see me unravel. I went upstairs, shut the bedroom door, and sank onto the edge of the bed. The humiliation burned, sharp and alive. I could almost hear my mother's voice rehearsing that post, perfectly composed, carefully cruel. She'd twisted the story so neatly it sparkled. To her, truth was clay. She shaped it however she liked. For years, I'd thought her guilt trips were love, that her, you know how much we've done for you speeches were family. But reading those comments, seeing people agree with her, I realized she'd only ever been protecting her image. I'd been protecting her reputation, too, by staying quiet. Not anymore. I opened the group chat. Messages blinked at me. Doris again, Evelyn again, their moral outrage neatly stacked. You broke your parents' hearts. That car was their lifeline. You've always been difficult, Mara. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I wanted to type everything about the late nights, the bills I paid, the sapphire necklace I'd sold. I wanted to scream that I was the one keeping that family afloat while Trent bought designer bags for his wife. But I didn't, because the truth didn't matter to people who'd already decided I was the villain. Instead, I grabbed my purse, my car keys, and the Toyota's folder of paperwork. The red bow was still tied on its hood like an accusation. I drove it to the dealership, snow streaking the windshield, my reflection hollow in the glass. The salesman, Mike, his name tag said, looked up from his desk. Back so soon? He joked. Yeah, I said, voice steady. It's not the right fit. He blinked, sensing the edge beneath my calm. You know there's a restocking fee, right? 3,000. I nodded, worth every cent. He studied me for a beat, then just said quietly, understood. The pen felt heavy in my hand as I signed the return papers. When it was done, he handed me the receipt. I slipped it into my bag and walked out, my boots crunching through slush, my chest burning, but lighter somehow. When I got home, the kids were napping under a blanket on the couch. Their faces were peaceful, untouched by the storm I'd just walked through. I sat at my desk, opened the family chat, and took a photo of the dealership receipt. Then I typed a single line. This is my gift to myself. No explanation, no defense. I hit send. The chat went still. No one replied. Not my mom, not dad, not Trent. Just that eerie silence that says everything words never will. Outside, the snow kept falling, soft and endless. And in the quiet, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Clarity. The kind that comes when you finally realize the storm wasn't destroying you. It was clearing your path. A week passed without a word from anyone. The silence was strange at first, like a radio suddenly gone dead after months of static. But then it became something else. Peace. New Year's Eve arrived quietly. No fireworks, no phone calls, just the smell of sugar cookies and cinnamon in our little Wichita kitchen. Riley stood on a chair beside me, carefully pressing star-shaped cutters into the dough. Eli stole spoonfuls of batter when he thought I wasn't looking. Grandma always burns hers, Riley said, giggling. Then we'll make sure ours don't, I replied, forcing a smile. The warmth of the oven and the sound of their laughter filled the room in a way money or approval never could. I'd stopped checking the group chat. I'd stopped expecting apologies that would never come. The Toyota was gone, but the weight it carried was gone too. Later that night, after the kids were asleep, I sat at my desk going through bills when I heard the mail slot clink. I frowned. No one delivers at that hour. On the floor lay a glossy envelope, pink with gold trim. My mother's handwriting on the front. To Mara. Inside was an invitation card with balloons and cursive letters. You're invited to Fern's birthday party, Topeka, January 15th. Tucked behind it, a handwritten note. Family is everything, Mara. Don't let pride keep you away. I stared at the words until they blurred. Pride. That was always her weapon of choice. She never apologized. She reframed everything, so my boundaries looked like sins. My pulse thudded in my ears. There it was again. That gentle poison disguised as affection. Family is everything. Translation. You owe us. Come back on our terms. I folded the invitation and set it on the counter. The light above the stove flickered, humming softly as I whispered to the empty room, not this time. Aww. The next morning, I watched Riley and Eli chase each other through the yard, their breath clouding in the cold air. For a moment, I thought about all the years I'd tried to be the good daughter, the one who smoothed things over, who paid the bills, who said yes even when it cost me sleep and self-respect. Every favor had come wrapped in guilt, every thank you followed by another request. And every family-first speech had really meant Mara last. I made cocoa for the kids and turned off my phone. For once, no notifications, no buzzes, just laughter and the crunch of snow beneath small boots. That night, after they fell asleep, I opened the group chat one final time. The last message, "This is my gift to myself," still sat there, unanswered. Above it, the older ones glared back like ghosts. Doris scolding me, Evelyn judging, Mom playing martyr. My thumb hovered over the settings icon. Mute, then archive. The app asked, "Are you sure?" I pressed yes. A strange calm spread through me. It wasn't triumph. It was release. The kind that makes you realize how loud their noise had been all along. Outside, the snow melted into puddles, reflecting the porch light. I stood there, arms crossed, watching it drip away, thinking how grief and freedom sometimes look the same in the dark. Somewhere deep inside, though, a flicker of unease remained, because silence in my family never lasted long. It always came before something worse. And I was right, because 2 weeks later, the mail arrived again. This time, the envelope wasn't pink. It was thick, off-white, and stamped with the words, "Certified Document." The envelope sat on the kitchen table like it carried a pulse of its own. Official seal, return address, Topeka. My mother's neat, slanted handwriting. For a minute, I just stared at it, heart hammering. Then I slid it open with the edge of a butter knife. Inside was a stack of crisp papers. Too many for a letter, too few for anything good. The first page made my stomach drop. This document serves as notice that Mara Linton and her minor children are hereby removed from the last will and testament of Thomas and Caroline Linton. I stopped reading. My hands shook, the paper rattling. I didn't even care about the money. There was never much to begin with. It was the intent. The cold precision of removed. The formality of minor children. There was a handwritten note at the bottom, in my mother's perfect script. "You've made your choice, Mara. So have we." I laughed once, bitter, hollow, then folded the papers back into the envelope like they could burn me. The kids were at school, the house was still, and I could finally let the noise inside me rise. Rage, hurt, something sharp enough to slice through years of pretending. They'd cut us out as punishment for walking away, not because of money, but because I stopped being obedient. I didn't cry. I just grabbed my keys. By the time I pulled into my grandfather Raymond's driveway in Topeka, the winter sun was sliding behind the trees. His house was small and old, smelling of cedar and coffee, a place that still remembered kindness. He opened the door before I even knocked. "Was wondering when you'd come," he said, ushering me in. His voice carried that gravelly warmth only age gives, the kind that sounds like it's seen everything and forgives most of it. I sat on his couch, hands still shaking, and handed him the envelope. He adjusted his glasses, reading silently, his brow furrowing deeper with each line. When he finished, he set it down slowly and looked at me. "Your mother sent this?" I nodded. "Certified mail, like I'm a stranger." He leaned back, exhaling hard. Caroline's pride always did get the best of her. "She didn't just cut me out," I said quietly. "She cut out Riley and Eli, too, her own grandkids." He rubbed his temple, silent for a long moment. The ticking wall clock filled the space between us. Finally, he said, "Tell me everything, Mara, from the start." And I did. I told him about the Christmas call, how Dad said the house was too crowded, how I'd bought the Toyota with money I didn't have, sold Grandma's sapphire necklace, and worked nights to pay their bills. I told him about the Facebook post, the comments, the lies, about the dealership return, and the silence that followed. He didn't interrupt once, just listened, eyes narrowed, jaw tight. When I finished, his voice came out low, firm. "She always favored your brother. But this," he tapped the envelope, "this crosses a line." I swallowed the lump in my throat. I just wanted to understand what I did wrong. All I ever did was try to help. He gave a slow, heavy sigh. "Sometimes helping people who won't help themselves just teaches them how to take more. Your mother, she's been chasing appearances since the day she married your father. And Trent, he learned early how to let her chase for him." He pushed the papers aside. "You know, your grandmother once told me she saw herself in you. Stubborn, loyal to a fault. She left you that sapphire necklace because she said, 'The one who gives the most will be the one forgotten first.'" The words hit like a tremor. I pressed a hand to my chest. "She said that?" "She did, and she was right." He looked at me with something fierce and protective in his eyes. "But not this time. I won't let them erase you, Mara." I blinked back tears I didn't want to shed. "You don't have to do anything." He cut me off. "I do, because I see what they've done, and I see who you've become in spite of it." He leaned forward, his hand covering mine, rough and warm. "Family isn't who shares your blood. It's who shows up when the world turns its back." For the first time in months, I felt something unclench inside me. Not vindication, something softer. Belief. He sat back with a decisive nod. "I'll talk to my lawyer this week." "Grandpa!" "No arguments. You've done enough sacrificing. It's time someone did right by you." The fire crackled softly in the hearth. The light caught the framed photos on the wall. My grandmother smiling, my mom as a teenager, me as a child clutching a stuffed bear. A whole history of people who had lost their way with love. I left the envelope with Raymond. As I stepped out into the evening chill, he called after me, "You've got a good heart, Mara. Don't let them take that too. Driving home, the road lights blurred through my tears. Not sadness this time, release. For the first time, I wasn't driving toward them. I was driving away. And that felt like survival. It was early summer when the call came. The kind of evening when fireflies blinked over the yard and the air smelled like rain. Riley and Eli were chasing each other with sparklers while I sat on the porch steps, watching the sky fade from pink to violet. My phone buzzed. Grandpa Raymond's name lit the screen. "Hey, sweetheart," he said, his voice warm but steady. "I wanted to let you know. I made it official. The will's been rewritten. The house, the land, the savings. It's all going to you and the kids." I froze, one hand clutching the armrest. "Grandpa, You don't have to." "I already did," he said gently. "You've carried this family on your back long enough. Someone should have seen that years ago." I blinked hard, staring at the kids running in the grass. For once, I didn't argue. I just whispered, "Thank you." When we hung up, I sat there a long time, the air thick with the sound of crickets and my own heartbeat. For the first time in forever, someone had chosen me. Not out of guilt, not out of image, but because I deserved it. But peace never lasted long in our family. 2 days later, my phone started buzzing again. Over and over. Notifications stacked like warning lights. Mom's Facebook post was the first thing I saw. Her tone was dripping with venom disguised as grief. "It's a tragedy when greed poisons family. My father has been manipulated by someone who knows how to twist stories. Some people will do anything for money." The comments came fast. Aunt Doris, Evelyn, even strangers. Unbelievable. Poor Caroline. She raised her daughter better than this. Then Trent shared it, added his own caption. "Money changes people, especially those who think they're owed something." My hands went cold. I scrolled through hundreds of reactions, their lies snowballing. My stomach turned. Not from shame, but from recognition. I'd seen this performance before. They couldn't control me anymore, so they had to control the story. Then came the messages. From Doris. "You're tearing this family apart. Share the inheritance. It's the only way to make peace." From Evelyn. "You've gone too far. Think of your parents, not yourself." I stared at the screen, my reflection warped in the glass. All my life, peace had meant submission. Keeping quiet, paying their bills, smiling while they took and took. Not anymore. I opened my contacts. Mom, Trent, Doris, Evelyn. One by one I hit block. The silence that followed was instant, sharp, clean, and absolute. I stepped outside where the kids were drawing chalk rainbows on the driveway. Eli waved. "Mom, look! Ours has 7 colors." "It's perfect," I said, kneeling beside them. The sky above was fading into gold. Later that night, after they were asleep, I sat at my desk with my laptop open to my bank app. The same account where I'd once wired money to my parents whenever they said they were struggling. There was still $3,000 sitting there, the money I'd planned to use for their next emergency. I typed in my mother's account number, added a note. "This is the last thing I owe you." My finger hovered over the send button. The weight of everything, the humiliation, the exhaustion, the years of begging for approval, pressed against me. Then I exhaled and clicked. The screen blinked. Transfer complete. I stared at those words until they blurred. Not because I regretted it, because I didn't. That message wasn't about money. It was about closure. A week later, a neighbor from Topeka told me my mom and Trent were struggling. Without Grandpa's inheritance, they had to cover their own bills. Dad's medication, the leaking roof, Trent's debts. Their Facebook posts had stopped. No more performative dinners, no more family photos. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt nothing, just quiet. Riley ran in with a handful of daisies, her cheeks pink from the sun. "Mom, we're making a garden." Eli followed, dirt on his hands, laughing. "Can we plant them by the porch?" I smiled. "Of course we can." We spent the afternoon digging in the soil, the air rich with life, the smell of earth, the sound of children who knew nothing about betrayal. That night, as they slept, I stood by the window watching the moonlight spill across the yard. The garden looked small, uneven, but it was ours. Everything that mattered was. I thought about Grandma's necklace, about Raymond's words. Family isn't who shares your blood. It's who shows up when the world turns its back. He was right. Love without respect isn't love. It's a leash. And peace isn't given. It's built. I chose mine. And for the first time, I didn't just survive my family. I outgrew them. In the end, I learned that family isn't who shares your blood. it's who shares your peace.